Hi, and welcome to Military Illumination. We illuminate the truth to help people make a better informed decision about enlisting in the military. While our focus really is on high school students, 18 to 20, or people 18 to 24 years old, anyone could benefit, especially if they know someone that's interested in the military or they're in the military themselves. We talk about the issues that surrounds everyday life in the military. And we just do it simply, just a simple conversation over a cup of coffee. That's what I do. My name is Gary, and welcome again to Military Illumination. Today, our topic is going to be about the predatory elements, the predatory entities, also known as the recruiters. The military recruiters, those men and women who dress up sharp and have an answer for everything, whose job is to get a person into the military at all costs. Yes, at all costs. Which means they lie, steal, or cheat, they're going to get you in. But to their defense, I must say this. They're only sharing what they know. And in the preservation of their careers, they're willing to sacrifice your life. What do I mean by that? They're tasked as a recruiter to bring people in. It's what you get assigned that. You get assigned and you go to recruiting school to learn how to recruit. It's salesmanship on steroids. The thing about it is that they're targeting the young people, women, men and women, high school students who haven't really figured out what they want to do yet, who haven't had an idea or chance to really look at their options. Most of them are scared, not sure what they're going to do after high school. Many of them don't have a good relationship with their families, so they got to go someplace. And lo and behold, who pops into the picture? Either through a high school counselor, a friend, or maybe a relative that served. Yes, the military recruiter. One thing you understand about the military recruiter is they're trained to find your weakness. If you look at the military in itself, it's a train to find the weakness and exploit it. That's basically what the military does. The tactics are the same. They're trained to find out what your weaknesses are, which mainly comes down to what a person's goals and dreams are. And then they manufacture the situation to show that what they're offering is going to fulfill that need superficially. Sometimes they sense that a person needs that sense of belonging, they're going to pull them in with that belonging. They're going to surround them with attention, tell them all the things they always wanted to hear. In essence, they're going to engage them in a point to where they're going to get them into the military, to where the person really is influenced by their behaviors. If they've been ignored, they're going to show them attention. They're going to show them how they're going to be friends with them, inviting them, giving them things, checking in on them all the time. Emotionally get them involved. So now you got them looking at a person from emotional side. Now you also got it, they're giving you what you want, what you need, what you think you need. And then finally, they're going to show how those two things match up. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense at all, but it's late. If I was to shorten it out, I would probably have to say it's a predatory approach grooming behavior. If you understand what grooming is, predatory is, you know those are usually terms that are associated with negative outcomes. Predatory, pedophile type stuff. Okay, I said it, right? Exploitation, those type of things. In the end, what a person was thinking they were getting isn't what they end up with. And that's what the essence of the military recruiter. That's what they're about. And honestly, there should be no way that they're allowed in high schools when they have exposed access, free access to young people, not even at military age. You go to a comprehensive high school with 9th to 12th, there's early as 14 being influenced. Not even old enough to sign a contract. And they're manipulating them. It's through that manipulation that they're, in many cases, they're willing to get people in. There's people that's going to join the military, and only because it's tradition, that's what they want, regardless. There's no selling involved. I was one of those people. You didn't have to sell me. I was already been sold. Through video games, through JROTC, through other organizations, through movies. These are all preparatory to the military experience. That mental mind game, that's happening, and they're influenced. The challenge with that is this. There's an attachment that happens, and a person stops looking at other options, and they start zooming in on the military, and that's what they want. They mentally, if you can picture it, somebody grabbing your face and turn it to, grabbing your face with your chin and turn it towards you and holding it there. They can't move left or right. They're staring at the face. That's essentially what I say what happens. So you should be aware of the military recruiters. They're not their friends. They come off as friends, much the same way as a predator would be. Someone who's going to, I don't want to go down that road, but it's what it is. They're finding out what you want, your weakness, and they're using it against the person. And then when it's finally over and said and done with, then it's too late. You can look at the street. You can look at sexual assaults, grooming behaviors, all that stuff. You can see it. It's the same pattern that people of the streets, the pimp use. I'm sorry for using that word, right? But it is what it is. People who are going to assault other people sexually. It's a pattern behavior. And then it comes down to that quietness. Don't tell. Be quiet. What did it look like? Once you get in and things don't work out, you're persecuted, retaliated against for speaking out. What happens a lot of times is a recruiter will engage young people in a way that there's a bond there, that you would say that you would think they had their best interest, that they're your friends. But they're just using you. Because when a person goes into the military and they go to the basic training and they come out as a private or the lowest rank, they go back to that recruiter who's probably be a sergeant or staff sergeant, they're going to be a whole different person. It's going to be military because there's a rank structure. And that's misleading. And that's misleading. That's misleading. They're going to be told things that's not true. If they're asked questions, the answers the recruiter's going to give them is very superficial. Mainly, it's not true. Blocking it. Okay. They're not going to get the right information. So, is that really joining the military under those conditions? Is it really a good thing to be manipulated with misleading information, not telling you the whole thing. They don't talk about the Ferris Doctrine. They don't talk about how your rights will be ignored in the military. They don't tell you that. Don't you think a person would want to know that? They don't tell you that the sexual assaults are at all-time high in the military, especially in the Army. Over 14% in 2023. It was over 100,000 people. Yeah, but 14% is almost like 14,000 people. Sexually, that's just the ones that are coming in forward. Okay? They don't talk about the rights that you lose. Mainly the Ferris Doctrine. They don't talk about those kind of things. They don't share that. They don't share a lot of things. And that's the issue. They're there for one thing and one thing only, is to get a person to sign in the dotted line. And now I know there's some recruiting stations that bring the people who are on delay entry program in on the weekends, under the contention of doing PT or teaching them how to do stuff before they go in, right? And so now, and why do they do that? Make sure you don't walk out. Make sure you don't quit. Make sure you show up for the MEPS. A person shows up for MEPS. So what I'm getting at in the short term is this. In the equation of the military process of bringing people in, the recruiter is the front lines. That's what the recruiter is. Their job is to build a relationship, get the person in. Do whatever it takes, lie, steal, or cheat, to get them in. And by the way, there's a lot of issues with recruits and potential recruits and recruiters having issues of a sexual nature. It's not good. So that's what I'm talking. So that's just what I wanted to talk about. I don't talk about a whole bunch of stuff. The recruiting is the front lines. Everything I talk about, it all comes down to recruiting. The mainly is knowing what you know, knowing what you want, first of all. Second of all, is not trusting it. And finally, is knowing that what you're being fed is either misleading, half-truths, or straight-out lies. And how can you make a decision when those factors are against you? I'm going to tell you a little story. Me, like I said before, I'm a veteran. I'm gonna share a little story with you of my, how would I say, experience. And by the way, I did talk with someone else who said the same thing after they returned back from basic training, and how the recruiter just snubbed them. So my recruiter, I was thinking, it wasn't hard to recruit me. I was really recruited. That's a different story. I was the Vietnam era kid. JRGC, Sea Cadets, let me see what else. A lot of war movies, a lot of war games. That's just my parents were in. My dad was in. My brothers were in. It's just what we did. I was honorable. I was honored to serve. Couldn't wait to get my military ID card like my dad to go and serve. Anyways, I went in for the college. Right? That's what I wanted to go to. I was one of those kids that you walk around in high school with golden dreams just bursting inside me. But no one talked to me about it. My counselors no one talked to me about it. But anyways, we're going to college. Make a long story short, when I went to the recruiter, it's one, I don't know, I'm not going to go through how I got there, right? And I told him, I said, I want to go to school. I want to go to school at night. That's what I want to do. I want to be able to go to school at night. I want to go to get my college degree. And I figured in my little 18-year-old mind was, I can go to work at daytime and go to school at night. Novel idea, right? It would have worked in civilian, but I didn't have I didn't have a quality person in my life. to guide me there. They didn't care and they didn't want to know. And I didn't share. So there you go. Anyway. And because my brothers were all on type, they all had those type of jobs where it was built mostly on a regular civilian time, 9 to 5. One was a clerk, one was a supply, one was the corrections. So, anyways, I tell him that. I said, that's what I want. He had me with the missile sites at first, and I said, okay, that's fixation. I knew that would I would be there. I have, that type of opportunity to go to school at night. But then he changed it up on me. He said, okay. He says, here. He said, here's another one that he just told me that wasn't available no longer, but this communications was. He showed me a picture of this guy in a shirt and tie in front of his computers. Just you can see this wall-to-wall with computers, shirt and tie on, communications. And I said, okay, I can do that. And so he said, that's fixation. I mean, that means that you both had shifts. So he took me out for one that was mostly going to be stationary in communications where I can go. Lo and behold, I made it to basic, no problem. I made it to my AIT. And we're going out someplace, and I was asking if there's some shelters on the back of these trucks. I said, what is that for? What are those campers? And I said, that's what you're going to be working out of. The SOB put me in basically it's combat support units that go to the field all the time and get deployed all the time. Yeah, that's what he did for me. So, there you have it. I wasn't able to go. Sent to Fort Bragg, got my wings. And since I was only a private, the commander had to okay for me to go to school, and he denied it. He kept on denying it until I was like E5. And that was after about 4 years in. Anyways, and that's my story. That's my college story. And how firsthand how a recruiter did me wrong. And the footnote was that I went back after a basic training. I wanted to go shake his hand. I wanted to go find him over there in San Diego. And he looked like when I went to his office, hi, how you doing? He looked at me like I was stupid. He said, are you a special kind of stupid or what? What do you want? He said, what do you need? He looked at me and he was busy. I didn't mean anything to him. I was nothing. So there you have it. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. But now, like I said before, I got my degrees, got my master's, got my associates, got my BA, but at a price. I could have done that a lot faster, a lot quicker, a lot cheaper if I had just stayed out of the military. Stay away from the recruiters. You don't need to go in right away. You can go until I think up to about 40 years old. Live life, have fun, become who you are meant to become. And if you so be it, join because you want to serve. Join because you want to serve without strings attached. Yeah. And the reason why I'm making these videos, these podcasts, the reason why is what happened with my friend after I had gotten out. What happened with my friend, and that's going to be an episode, that's going to be the season number 3, and what I went through with that person and what I saw made me look back and regret the day I even went into the military. But then it said, time has caught up. Now I can talk to more people and share their story and my story so that maybe illuminated the truth enough to where a person would move on to bigger and better things. If I said anything to you that resonate with you or even pissed you off, right? I don't care if it pissed you off. Share with other people. If you're a recruiter and you hear this and you get pissed off, you know what? Go eat a bowl of Cheerios with milk. I don't care because it's the truth and you know it's the truth. Those are scoundrels and rats. All right, anyways, enough of that. I'm going to be talking to you later on. Season 3 probably won't start until August, and it's all really going to be about the National Guard and that infrastructure they had there and the 19 acts of injustice. Until next time, grab a cup of coffee, buy me a cup of coffee, share with someone else, and have fun. Bye-bye.